Hello, everybody. I'm Josh Saunders, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Preservation Podcast. I am joined virtually today by my co-host, Mark Seither. Mark, how you doing today, man?
Doing fantastic. How's Texas out there?
Texas is good. Here in Corpus, it's always windy and muggy, so nothing has changed here, but it's sunny, so that's great. Yeah, but I'm so glad we have technology and we can keep doing these podcasts and bringing this value to our listeners. Hopefully, for the next one, we'll be back in studio, which would be great.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mark, why don't you go over what we're going to talk about in today's awesome podcast?
Yeah, so we have asset protection attorney Brian Bradley. He's going to be going over how, when he got his start, no one was really hiring attorneys, and he had to have a real grit mentality of starting off on his own. And he's also going to go into how he created a lean operation, what he outsourced, what he kept in-house, and how he built his practice.
Yeah, and I think you guys really like the last part of that is his personal branding and how he built his personal brand in a really unique niche. So here we go. We'll kick off the episode. Brian, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. I appreciate it. It's going to be, a long, fun topic to talk about. And I definitely like this topic besides just, like always geeking it out on the law, because I am more of an entrepreneur and business, guy. And so I always like talking about, how to help out other people.
Yeah. Perfect. It's a huge, massive need, right? In the marketplace, like this whole asset protection, what does it mean? What's it do? And then, part of that protecting assets is also taxes too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's also just no one teaches you any of this stuff in school anymore. So it's like, you want to go and start a business, like how? I didn't learn that. Business school doesn't teach you that either,
Yeah. So, hey, before we get into this, though, Brian, I got a quick question. So is that your normal COVID haircut length, or have you gotten a haircut since the lockdown started? That's
like the best question ever asked. No, this is post lockdown now. So before, because I have long curly hair, it was just a mop. And
were you like Yanni? Were you just all Yanni'd out, like just flowing locks?
Throwing it around. And no, and then they opened up, and I was able to go and get my post-COVID lockdown haircut, and so I probably got to go get a little bit trimmed up again because my hair grows fast. But
just real quick, I had somebody posted something on LinkedIn I thought was really funny. She said, I got a text from my hairdresser reminding me of my appointment tomorrow, and the lady was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? I've had this marked on my calendar for 3 months, and I'm taking paid time off to come get my haircut. I am not missing this appointment. Like, not a chance."
It's a serious thing. People, in their haircuts right now, when you don't go for them for 3 or 4 months, and I don't trust my wife to.
My wife threw that option out there too. She's like, I could try cutting your hair. I was like, no, absolutely not.
I used to have 2 things that you never did with your spouse. One was don't try and train them working out, and the other one was don't teach them how to shoot a gun. The third is never let your wife cut your hair, because those are just none of those are marital bliss at all.
I tried working out with my wife when we were dating, and it went well for about 2 weeks, and then
yes.
So here we go, entrepreneurial advice and marriage advice.
Marriage and entrepreneur all in one.
All in one.
Which, my wife will probably unsubscribe to our podcast now. So
yeah,
I'm probably not going to listen unless I'm.
Oh yeah,
have to listen to this.
Yes. Yeah, I love you, honey. How's that? There you go.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's dive into this. So first off, Brian, give us a quick snapshot as to first where you grew up and where you went to college.
Yeah, so I grew up in the famous, real-known Lake Tahoe, and so I got to grow up in the mountains, being a normal kid, fun kid, running around all the mountain resorts and ski resorts, snowboarding, wakeboarding in the summer. It was a great childhood growing up there. And the good thing, when you're kind of in a small town and, with all the seasons, is it breeds you to be an entrepreneur, because you're like, oh, I want to go buy a new snowboard. I want to get some more snowboard boots or shoes or this or that. Tons of decks and driveways need to be shoveled during winter. And so I can go make a quick couple $100 in a couple of hours back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago, just shoveling, a couple of driveways and decks. And the next thing you know, I got tons of cash to go save. And I was really cheap. I didn't want to go spend all my cash, so I would stash all of it away. But then, then I would have more money in the reserve in the back end of it. And then I can go buy whatever I wanted. And that principle just always kind of stuck with me. And then, I was a premier athlete, football, baseball, wrestling. And, really didn't think I needed to go to college because I was being looked at by Oakland A's. And it's like, well, my mom forced me to go to college, so I went to Arizona State, to go play baseball, and my arm just got tanked. Like it was just, I think, overuse, a lot of pitching coach changes. And 2 years into college, when my arm gave out on me for 3 times, I just realized all those opportunities are gone, and now I have to become a scholar. So how do you do this? Like, how do I dig this out? Because I'm that atypical, type of personality, I just literally flipped the switch to I hate sports now. I'm no longer going to watch baseball. I'm going to obsess about school and reading books. And so I literally just locked myself in libraries and read every book known to man to just, catch up what I felt like I lost out on. Um, and then when I was coming out of college, like I really had no clue what I wanted to do. I know I like business. I know I'm good at logic, philosophy, and things like that.
So you're like, I'm going to be a lawyer. There we go. I'm
Yeah,
going to law school.
Perfect.
my mom recommended it to me. She's like, "Hey, why don't you think about going to law school?" I'm like, "I don't know. I really want to go be a Navy SEAL and go in the military. Um, I'd rather go that route." And my uncle was in the military, and literally the day I was enlisting, literally, I'm not like the day I was at the recruiter's office about to sign my, enlistment papers into the SEALs. And my mom calls, she's like, "Don't sign anything. You got into law school." I'm like, "Well, hold on. Let me call my uncle real quick and talk to him." And he's like, "One thing, you're just turned 21, Brian. Like the military's not going anywhere. Don't worry about it. Like, why don't you go try law school 1 year? If you hate it, you tried it, and then come back. We'll be here, and you'll be older at about the right age that we want you to come in at, anyways, for this." Um, so I went, tried it, and I loved it. Like, wow, I love law. It was easy for me. Like, I was one of those kids that just sat there. I case and hand briefed every single case of every book that I had. Um, and, I just cruised by. I had a great time. I worked at the district attorney's office while I was there. I went to school at night, worked during the day so I can get experience. I specifically picked a small school, Southern California Institute of Law, because I didn't know if I wanted to practice law. I just knew I wanted a law degree at the time. So I didn't want to amass insane amount of school debt that I would never be able to pay back. So it allowed me to get the same education, but come out debt free. Then the economy tanks. So 2008 comes around, you're out of law school. I was supposed to be getting like a hand given job from the DAs. And next thing it's like, "Oh, hey, sorry, no jobs. California's on a hiring freeze,
Right.
but we don't know what to do." And so then that turned into having to go into private practice with other, like civil law firms and litigation. Economy trickled into all the firms because all the firms were upside down. And so I just had to go from firm to firm, family firm to family firm, saying, "Hey, thanks for solving our problems, but you're not family. Like I'm married to that person. That person's my kid. That person's married to that person.
Mhm.
You're the left man, the left one out." And then all the firms and businesses at that time just, there was no money, and I had to work and get experience. So I just started knocking on the doors of all the like state agencies who needed attorneys but couldn't pay them. And I just said, like, "Hey, I'll represent your indigent clients for free. I don't care. You just cover the court cost and I'll go in and represent them." And I had to do that for 3 years just to get into court. But it gave me more court experience than most attorneys at that time with 25 years of experience. And then that, just sort of helped me, launch myself from there.
Wow. Yeah, you're like, I'm basically getting my law practice off the ground by adopting the same business model as the Hoover vacuum people. Like knocking on doors, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm willing to work."
Well,
Like
the options were literally, it was quit trying to be a lawyer because no one's going to hire you.
yeah,
Or do it on my own and mess everything up. And then, have a malpractice suit covered. And I couldn't afford insurance at that time. And, I was like, "All right, what am I going to do?" I was like, "Well, I need to hedge my bet. There's these agencies that need, clients represented. No one's willing to do it for free. I need experience." And I just took the long-term view of it and said, this experience will propel me later on. So I'm just going to suck up the pain now and go with it.
yeah. No, I mean and I think that's what I mean. That's what a lot of our entrepreneurs that have been on the show have said. Is they're like, I kind of ran to a position where I was like, I'm just gonna put my head down and just start working, and like, for you got law experience and you got, I mean, that's how
Yeah.
that's how you start your practice.
Yeah, and I had two good not mentors because they really didn't mentor me in the law per se. It's not kind of how that industry is. It's just sink or
Mhm.
swim. But when they let me go, they're like, "Hey, we're not letting you go because you're bad. You're probably like one of the best attorneys we've ever seen come through. It's just that we can't pay you." But the advice was one was don't be afraid to stick your neck out. Like the people who fail are the ones that are afraid, and driven by fear. If you don't stick your neck out, you're never going to go anywhere. And then when I actually was practicing, the next advice was, like you're us young. So like we started these firms, back in the last crisis, financial crisis. Um, don't be afraid to just jump in the deep end on yourself and go about and do it. Don't be paralyzed by fear. You got the it. Now just do it.
Which might be timely given the current climate. I mean, there might be some aspiring attorneys right now who are like, ugh. I mean,
Don't be
you're
paralyzed
look,
by fear. Yeah. I know we're going to talk
yeah,
about it later on some tips. Like I'll just give out one of them right now and we can bring it down later on is go affiliate with other larger firms. Hedge your bet. Like we like
mhm,
to teach, just make sure that everybody gets a share of the profit. Don't
yeah,
be piggish. That was where I went wrong in the beginning was I also was arrogant and piggish. And I just had
mhm,
to learn through, like hiccups of why things failed and pivot from there.
yeah. So I mean, I guess tell us the story of like when you decided, okay, I've done things on my own for long enough. I'm gonna be a total lone wolf, and I'm gonna, I'm basically gonna rock this thing by myself. I'm not gonna go join a big firm. I'm gonna be just me as an attorney, solo.
Yeah, no, it's about 4 years into having my license because I mean the recession lasted forever, and all I was doing was begging around for work. Like, hire, I'm amazing. Here's all these references. Here's all the work. Like, here's the accolades that I have. Please hire me. I'll work for free. But then when you go to these really big firms, they don't want to pay you for free because then it hurts their bottom line, and then they're based off of billable hours. And I just got tired of begging for work, and then I got tired of just being used by small firms. I got to the point to where I had a good reputation as a janitor, basically like come in, clean up our mess. We're stuck in this $40 million lawsuit. We don't know what to do with it. We're drowning in it. We don't know how to run the case, or we don't know the trial tactics. Please come in and help us. Okay, I come in, fix the case, settle it, get a great settlement and judgment out of it. Then it's basically like, hey, thanks for helping us. Here's your paycheck. We don't need you anymore.
You,
And when,
you're like the real Better Call Saul.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, hey, Saul, we got a disaster here.
I love that show because when I watch it with friends, I'm like, this is me.
Yeah. I haven't dedicated myself to that show yet, but the episodes I have seen, I'm like, I really got to start this from the beginning. I mean,
Yeah,
that is
when you watch, the what is it in the movie industry, like the pre-story, and how you
yeah,
become a lawyer and working through. I'm like, God, this is just my story, and so I relate to it so well. But yeah, and that was my pivoting point to where I was like, I am so tired of being used. I started reading, Robert Kiyosaki, and The Rat Race, and Dave Ramsey books and other finance and business books that no one teaches you in school. Like you don't learn about it in law school. You don't learn about the real world in economics class or any of that stuff. Like I just realized I can either do a great job and be used and get fired or not benefit from my hard work, or I can just do this on my own and sink and swim. And I found out I can swim, but that was my pivoting point was right there.
yeah. And I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I've just heard this a couple times where entrepreneurs who strike out on their own, they're like, one thing that kind of kept me going was if this fails, the experience I get from going on my own makes me way more employable than so many people out there.
I have a
Right.
different.
So I mean,
I
it's
have a
almost not a sink or swim. It's either, swim or get on someone else's boat, right? But I mean like
It is, but in the legal field, then it works against you because then you're seen as a competitor. And so that was part of my issue was I was on my own successfully for a long time, but then I wanted to hedge my bet because I wanted to have the stability of a paycheck at the same time. Um, but then I literally got the reply like, "We would love to hire you. Our biggest concern is that you're going to see how we operate and what we're going to do, and now you're going to be our biggest competitor."
Yeah.
And so just by the nature of business, I was at arm's length. Like we'd love to know you. Thanks for the cross reference and referrals, but there's no way we're bringing you in house.
yeah.
And so but to start off my own practice, like it was just a big shift in mindset. Like at the end of the day, I really believe that, like you are your own worst enemy, like, and you just need to get out of a delusion, stop, like hindering yourself from success and change your mindset. Once you change your mindset, your success will just start following you.
Yep, totally agree. Absolutely.
And so I guess because you mentioned some books you were reading, was there maybe like a concrete person that you kind of turned to as like a mentor for guidance, or someone who kind of showed you the ropes?
Um, in the sense of business development, no. Like it was just I was I didn't know marketing whatsoever. Like I listened to old school advice. It was like your reputation as a trial lawyer and a litigator is going to carry you. Like you'll get referrals. Referral business is how it is. Very old mindset, and I dug myself in that trench for a long time. Um, I started.
Be honest. Did you take out pages in the yellow, or take out ads in the yellow
No, I
pages?
didn't know advertise. I didn't have my website even indexed on Google. Like nothing. Like I just figured I did a good job. Someone's going to call me because of referral. And word of mouth. Um, and that didn't really happen. And so I started reading, like Robert Kiyosaki and other books. And I realized I spent no time creating a business entity, like an actual business, or systems and processes and procedures. And so even if I did have a bunch of clients, if I want to do good legal work, I'm hindered because I only can have so many clients. And now I'm not a business, I'm a client driven service. And so I'm like, I can only serve
True.
so
Yep.
many clients. And so what I needed to do was take a step back and say, all right, I need to check my ego at the door again, change my mindset and say, all right, I can either go into court pounding, the desk in court and making my arguments all the time, or I can check my ego and run a business. And so as soon as there's a reason they're senior managing partners. It's like I need to run a business, so I need to be a businessman. And so I had to change that mindset and start creating systems and processes and procedures and networks, and build those up, because then I can grow infinitely. I can take in more clients. I can get more work product done. Before I wasn't able to grow. And then you wonder why so many firms fail is because they don't. Lawyers just want to practice law. They don't know business. Most don't, unless you do it on your own and study this. Most business people don't know business because you're not taught how to get off a hamster wheel. So we're just copying the same formula, making other people money who got off that rat race hamster wheel.
So Brian, let's dive into that topic real quick. That's a really good point. Like, what are some top like running a business, right? So what are the things that you wish you had known or that they had taught you in school, right? What are those things? Like, whether it be accounting and finance or HR or marketing, I mean, what are some of those things that like,
Yeah.
I wish, why don't you teach this? Tell me, help me.
Yeah, I think it should be mandatory, especially in law school, because there's eventually you're going to wonder, like, oh, if I go out and start out on my own, I want to succeed. No matter what business you're in, you have to raise your financial IQ. Like, if you don't know money, then you're not going to be good at business, because at the end of the day, budgets don't restrict your money. Like, they tell your money where to go and what to do with your money. You have to know how to budget. You have to also know how to market and brand yourself. I didn't know marketing and branding. Like I'm one of the top one percenters of the one percenters of lawyers out there, and no one knows that I exist if I don't market and brand myself and talk about it.
True.
And so if I didn't have a website, like who cares? How do I direct traffic to that? How do I get a story out there? How do you get clients to come in? No one talks about the actual work that the senior managing partner of a firm does. But if you're just by yourself, something has to give. Either I'm going to be practicing the law and pounding the nail, or I'm going to be the contractor. The
Yeah.
general
So,
contractor.
so could we dive into that personal branding part of it? Like, what have you done personal branding wise? Like, how have you built that? What are and that the marketing world, social media, all this stuff is changing rapidly and all that. But what have you kind of done in the recently, the last 5 to 8 years to kind of build the Brian Bradley brand, right? The
Yeah,
BTB Legal brand.
great. That's a good question. And what I did was before COVID, about 3 years ago, I just went purely tech. Like I just realized I need a financially lean and mean law firm. And what that means is, for example, I don't need a secretary. Yeah, I cut that expense out. Answering services, then 24/7 calls get picked up, messages get delivered immediately. If you don't return a call within, some say 24 hours. If you don't return a call, I say within 2 hours, you're going to probably lose that business. So someone has to then follow up on that call, because then that person's going to call another competitor and another competitor while they're shopping around.
Sure.
Well, at the end of the day, if you answer that call and you pick up that phone and you talk to that person, the likelihood of closing, whether it's in the law or another business, is going to increase. And then it's like, okay, do I really need an office expense? Like that's just vanity. Unless I'm in criminal law or something like, a few other small areas of law, I don't need that office expense.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You're telling me you don't have a big mahogany desk,
No,
and you don't. You're not
I
wearing.
was
Are
about
you
to
not wearing
say
Prada shoes, Prada loafers right now?
no,
What?
that's all
that
vanity. It's an unnecessary
What?
expense.
Not.
that goes hand in hand with that check the ego at the door, because I mean you meet so many people who have to have all of the things, right?
But I carry
The
no
desk, the shoes, the bag, everything.
and I carry more overhead than them, and I have no extra cost. So whatever they're making, like that's going out somewhere else. I like money, and I like building a business. So I would like to keep more of my money and then use it to other investments because I also like to invest. So it's all about cash flow, no matter what business you're in. And so the more you raise your financial IQ, the better your business is going to be, because then you're going to simplify your life. Like another thing that I did was affiliations. I realized I'm a trial lawyer, but I got tired of seeing problems come into my door before, after it was too late to fix them. And so I wanted to get ahead of the curve and help people before they're being sued. And I said, well, I want to do a high-end asset protection for business owners and entrepreneurs, investors. How do I do this but provide the best concierge product that's available? So I went to the 3 top firms in the world and said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I can do for the clients on the litigation side. This is what you guys can do on the production side and the protection side. How can we make an arrangement together to where we can benefit each other? And so I just added that aspect of the business in by affiliating with the 3 top firms in the world on asset protection. Again, cuts my overhead. Now I can expand into that area. We have a great working relationship. And so that's the power of finding affiliations, especially when you're starting out, when you're young. You need a mentor. You need someone that can show you the ropes. And then when you're adding in new businesses, I'm not going to go and create a new wheel. The wheel's already created. Find the person who uses the wheel how you want to do. Call them up and say, hey, let's find a way to work together. Here's my strength. Here's your strength. Now let's have a better, let's create a van. And so then that's what I did. So I just created a financially lean and mean law firm, and then built my network and affiliations. And yeah.
So let's. I mean, I kind of want to a little get granular on the marketing part of it, because I know you're kind of a, I use the word monster in a good way, right? But you're kind of a LinkedIn monster, right? So
Yeah.
how have you, and using podcasts and putting yourself out there, kind of
Yeah.
give us some actionable steps. Like, what have you done as as BTB Legal and as Brian to get yourself out there and kind of do that that organic marketing basically, right?
Yeah, you don't need to go spend a bunch of money, because you can spend yourself poor,
Sure.
on pay per click.
Can we repeat that one more time, loud and clear?
Yeah.
I don't even know what I said.
You said you can spend.
You don't need to spend lots of money.
You don't need to spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising, and you can overspend yourself to go broke. And like I know a lot of businesses who will spend $2,500,000 on like pay per click, SEO, all these other marketing strategies. But especially if you're young and starting out, or you have an idea, or if you just want to, there's other ways to get cheaper forms of branding and marketing. Podcasts are one of them. You can reach a large amount of audience. And as long as you're not sleazy, like I like to do this because I have a lot of knowledge. So I like to talk and share. So if you just go from an educating standpoint and have something to share and talk and educate people on, people are going to listen. And then those listeners might need something that you have. And then they heard you. Well, I'm going to call this guy because he successfully did it. And then there's other people and followers from there. LinkedIn. It's not, I was really hesitant about using LinkedIn and social media posts because I don't like attention that much. Like I feel like, hey, look at me and look at what I'm on. I felt was too grandiose, and I was bragging about myself. And then someone told me like, no, it's really not. It's social media is how people get to know you. It keeps your network up to date on what's going on with you, to where they have somebody coming in, they can say, oh yeah, hey, Brian does this, and here's some stuff from him to send it out. So you're just updating people on your business life. And as your network grows, people just want to know what you're up to. And it's a good way to just get yourself out there, and it's free. Right. And so if you just use, join groups on LinkedIn, communicate. It's not always about yourself. Go and chime in on what some of these people's questions are and offer your 2 cents. Keep it professional. But if you educate people, that's what I realized my strength is I am an educator of the educator. So I teach other lawyers how to do high-end asset protection. I teach banking, banks how to set these systems up. I teach CPAs. So I'm the educator of the educators.
Yep.
And so when people come to me, it's like, yeah, we do a higher end service. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to use my services. Like there's different scale ups, but maybe you don't want to use me, but take my knowledge and go somewhere else. That doesn't bother me. So I just look at the marketing and branding as don't be a sleazy salesman, just be an educator. And I'm not trying to do business with everybody.
Which, I mean, a really good point. We actually, by the time this episode comes out, we'll have already released an episode with someone who uh, uh, really has a extensive social media platform, Dr. Jared Thomas. But one of the things he said that you kind of brought up was, you didn't like LinkedIn and social media because you're like, I just felt like it was pointing the attention at me and all grandiose. And what Dr. Thomas's advice was, and basically what you said was, it is social networking. You do have to network, and it doesn't have to be about you. It has to be about educating the other people on the platform,
Yeah, and
right? And so like that's what the whole thing is about, right? And like you're really just using a platform for what it's intended for. It doesn't have, it shouldn't be.
it's sending out brochures and flyers. It's just now social.
Yeah.
Online, it's digital. It's the same thing. So it's like, okay, let me just update my network and grow my network. I join investment groups and then I go and do teaching seminars. People connect. And so these are all things that you can do that you don't need to pay for. And so the more shows you go and talk on, the more your story gets out, the more teaching seminars you do. It elevates your platform.
Yeah. So give us a snapshot on the trajectory or where BTB Legal was when you started out, and kind of how big is your scope now?
Yeah. So when I started out, it was just me begging for work. It was small. Like I would get hired for the occasional, every year I'd have like one or two really big cases that people would come and reach out for. And if I have a really large case, I generally wouldn't take anything else out, and I would just hope to God I get paid out of it. And so like I learned through a lot of hiccups from there, but I was small, one or two cases a year, and then over the time now, I affiliate with Lawn Mill, one of the largest firms in the world on asset protection and asset protection council. And so collectively, like now I have I got over 3,000 clients in network and a national large affiliation with thousands of other attorneys. And then we're protecting up to like 4 billion worth of assets now.
Wow.
That's it.
And without a mahogany desk?
Without a mahogany desk. I actually have my old used desk. I sanded it down, and then
Brian, those Prada loafers are not going to wear themselves. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's you're probably wearing flip flops right now. Like
I actually have things on right
now.
Hey, it's a podcast. You might not be wearing pants. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
Like I like you guys enough towards like I'll put the pants on this time.
Man, that makes us feel special. There we go.
But
Jeez,
the sweatpants.
Awesome. The sweatpants, yeah. These are my business sweatpants.
So, but another aspect of your business that I think this is also something that entrepreneurs anywhere can relate to is this is a lot of work, right? And trying to be a top-notch attorney in what you do, it's a lot of work, a lot of reading.
Yeah,
running a business, a lot of work, a lot of learning all these things that you didn't know how to do. You're also family. You're also a family man.
Yeah.
Right. So as someone who struck out on their own, what was kind of, did you reach a point where you're like, hey, for the health of like what's really important to myself, I actually need to scale back on some time in the business, because I'm sure it's easy to get lost in just building the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the whole reason that I put that whole work in to go and create systems and processes and procedures was when I did read, Kiyosaki's book, I realized like I am doing this completely wrong. And the more processes and systems and procedures you put in place, one, the more efficient you get and the more money you're going to make, the more you can grow, the more free time you get. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, 2 little princesses, 2 daughters. I wanted to create a system so that I have more free time to spend with my girls. So I get to have the luxury of taking my girls to school, picking them up, taking them to the park, the dance class, gymnastics, and soccer. Like I'm basically like, if you saw me, people would think like, oh, he's a stay-at-home dad, but I don't care what people think about me. It's just I have a great system in business that it took me a long time. It didn't just happen overnight. It's taken me like years of work to like put it into that point to where it's a well-oiled machine. But once it gets to that point, now life starts, you get to enjoy life a lot more.
Yeah, hey, Brian, I really want to let's dive into that part a little bit too. Of like everybody always thinks that success is like an overnight, right? My joke is I always tell people that success is like it is an overnight 10 years, right? It happens overnight in 10 years, or it's a
It goes
being
fast
sarcastic, but
overnight.
it takes time, right?
A lot of times, like, so I've been on my own for so probably like almost 10 years. And up until like 2 years ago, it was always a struggle and a fight, or like one partnership failing, someone trying to take advantage of me, like me getting in my own way because of like ego or whatever, the issue is. And so, like, failures, the difference between the ones who turn that corner and succeed is they don't let the hiccups and failures stop them. The military principles, like Josh, you're a military guy, like improvise, modify, adapt, and overcome. Like, I don't care what the problem is. Like, I'm just going to solve it, learn from it, not make the same mistake twice. And I'm just going to evolve and pivot. Like, my life is about pivoting, like every aspect of it. And then I just found a better way to, like make the wheel spin for me, and it allowed me to, I grew by stepping back. So I guess like the best way to answer your question is by not having to do everything as a general contractor, also doing the framing and the roofing. I realized I'm going to go hire the framer, I'm going to go hire the roofer, I'm going to go hire the masons, and then I'm just going to check on the status of the work. And then if there's a problem, I'll help solve the problem. And then that frees up my time to be what I want, an investor, because I also like investing. And I'm a big family guy. I do everything for my family. It's the most important thing for me, and that's time. My family time is, personal one-on-one time.
And I think that's such an important thing, because, like, especially an important concept, because so many people do think like, well, I have to literally, a lot of people sacrifice their family for their business, right?
Yeah,
And there's like this belief that they're competing parties, right? And it's like, okay, I either need to drop one or drop the other. It's like, no, you need to think of a different way to handle both,
exactly.
right?
Recreate a better system. The problem is that
Yeah.
people don't have a procedure or a system, and then their mindset's not right, and then they're too ego driven or vanity driven or something that's not allowing them to make that mental adjustment. But once that mental adjustment happens, they realize my life can function a lot better and I'm going to be happier. Like, I can pick
Mhm.
up a phone call or take my computer and be in Hawaii, or on a beach, and still get the same amount of work done at a high level, because we do high end asset protection and we do a concierge service, which I picked up from, like the doctor's offices, and, when I was living in LA for the stars, like high volume, not high volume, but just, high product,
Mhm.
concierge service, personalized service. You call, we pick up no matter what. Um, doesn't have to make my life miserable. I just had to create a system and procedure around it.
Yeah. So, do you think that this is probably, because you have a real streamlined, real streamlined process. You seem happier than most attorneys I know. Like, you actually get to spend time with your family.
Yeah.
You're an attorney I would actually want to hang out with, right? Like, do you think that, basically your approach of how you're doing things and how you build your practice? Do you see this as like the future of just practicing law in general?
Not entirely, because not everybody wants to be a business owner. Like, there's
Mhm.
different walks of life. Some people just want to be a worker bee. So I think it's like, the 1% rule. You talk to, 10 people, you know, all 10 of them are going to hear what you have to say. 20% of them will, like, okay, let me dive in a little bit more. 1% will implement it. Some people just want the security of working for somebody else and getting that secure paycheck. Some people then will then jump out on their own, but then one failure, they're done. They're not going to push through it. So I don't think it's going to be the total future of law firms. I think what you're seeing with law firms is a technological shift now, which is great. So they'll become more
Mhm.
efficient, free up their time, more family time. I don't think that every firm is going to end up doing, like how I created, my
Yeah.
business. I think is a better way to do it. Yeah. But like I said, it takes all walks of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess for any of the listeners who are, and it doesn't even have to be, try not to make it legal specific, but business owner specific, when you're looking at, hey, if you're someone who is entrepreneurial minded, you want to create that balance of having systems in place, spending time with family. What do you think is probably step one for either re-education or reapproaching uh, uh, a particular career in a way that saves a bunch of money, basically takes a lot of that burden off of you and frees up the finances to be able to go out and do your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say there's like one specific, like you have to go do this. I would say like the top ones would be find free ways to market and brand yourself. That's
Mhm.
going to save you money and it's going to elevate you. Find the power of affiliations. That's another one. And then raise your financial IQ. And if you start reading finance books, like read some good investment books, the more you know about money and budgeting and how it works. Like if you're going to run a business and a successful business, at the end of the day, it all comes down to your books. Like
Yeah.
it's just the way business is, dollar in, dollar out. And the more dollars in that I get than the ones that are going out, the more successful I'm going to be.
That is a concept that is lost on so many people. The whole like we can talk about financial strategies, investment strategies. We can talk all about we can talk about that for hours, right?
Yeah.
But if your expenses are here and your income is here, it's not going to matter.
You got to
Like,
find to, go read Dave Ramsey's book. Go read Dave Ramsey's, and it's kind of like the example of Ken and Barbie. Like, and I can get it into kind of like cost saving advice. Like you need to stop being financially stupid. And raise your financial IQ. If you want to be a millionaire, do what millionaires do. Copy them. Like if you want to be a strong, lean guy, do what strong, lean people do at the gym, not the fat 300-pound guy.
yeah.
Mimic and copy success. Surround yourself with success. Ken and Barbie, they probably live fake delusional lives because they're just on a hamster wheel, spinning their wheel, bad at money, copying what the neighbors do, trying to keep up with
Hmm.
the Joneses. The Joneses are bad with money. They don't know what they're doing. And so you're just constantly stuck in this rat race on this hamster wheel, not even knowing that you're on it and how to do it. So just stop living in a delusion, get your expenses and your budgeting and your financing down. Don't outlive your finances that are coming in. Same thing with business. If you want to keep your doors open, you have to have a profit line. It's just the way it is. And so the other one, part of it that I would say is there's this really good story of like about success and surrounding yourself with success. I think if you follow this story, a lot of good things will happen. So there's this successful corn farmer. Every year for decades and decades, he wins the championship, like the blue ribbon. And there's this reporter there one of these days, and the reporter comes up to the farmer, is like, how is it every year you're always winning the championship as the corn farmer? He's like, oh, that's easy. Every year at the end of the season, I take the seed droppings from my corn and I give them to all the surrounding farmers in my area. And that way, all my corn is surrounded by last year's champions. And so whenever the wind blows, the only thing that's pollinizing my cornfields are last year's champions. And so the question then comes down to who are you surrounding yourself with for success on a personal level and a business level? And so if you're not surrounded by success, then you're never going to be successful.
I have never heard that story. I love that one. I'm gonna and for someone who had his early childhood in Minnesota, it kind of resonates a little bit more. I was literally surrounded by corn and cows. So
Yeah.
you wanted to be downwind of the cornfield, not the cow field. Awesome.
For sure.
Nevada, so we have a lot of, like when we get off when I got off the mountain, there's all cow farms. And so you're really like, okay, we're off the mountain.
We're off the mountain. Yes, yes, we're in flatland officially. Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Well, that's probably a good place to wrap up. Your practice real quick. Where can people find you? We mentioned that you're definitely a social media monster, but go ahead and plug your website and your handles.
Yeah, so they can reach me at my website www.btblegal.com. We got tons of educational videos on asset protection there. Email me Brian Brian at btblegal.com. Send me emails, questions. That doesn't bother me. I just like helping people. I'd rather have education and let you make your own decision. And like you said, I'm on LinkedIn. It's just a great platform to market and get answer questions and help people out.
For sure. Absolutely. Awesome. Mark, are we having a speed round this time?
I did not put a speed. I mean, we could bring. I don't know. Do you have any speed round questions off the top of your head?
Okay.
I think I got one immediately.
I got one for Brian. Brian.
Okay.
Three things that somebody could do, and let's talk to lawyers, right? So lawyers that are ready to start their own practice. 3 things that they could do to get cranking tomorrow. Like, what are the first thing, if you're given 25-year-old Brian advice, what were the three pieces of advice you would give him?
Check your ego at the door.
Okay.
Create affiliations with successful firms.
Okay.
Don't be piggish.
What do you mean by that?
If you have to take less of the profit line to get yourself going, take less. You'll make more later on.
Absolutely. Okay. Don't be a pig. I like it. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered.
Exactly.
Second one, 2 books that people can go to right now to go up their financial IQ.
I don't know. So everyone always like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I would go with the second book, Cash Flow Quadrant. It really dives into the principles of that book in more detail. And then I like Richest Man of Babylon, because then it starts changing your mindset into how to become a bank. And so, like, how to use leverage, how to, get your money to go farther, and then it'll propel you into more books from there. But at the end of the day, the idea is to be your own personal bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. Absolutely.
Also, have to throw this one out there. You are up in Oregon, correct?
Yeah.
If I am around your neck of the woods, this one's purely selfish. Which brewery should I go hit up?
There we go.
Yeah, so I'll give you 2: Ancestry and Stickman. And
Ancestry and Stickman.
Yeah, and so the reason those 2 are amazing, besides just like the quality of the beer, is because so have you heard of Deschutes Brewery?
Yes.
The famous brewery. So
yeah.
The second, not the headmaster brewer, but the guy right below him, they're never going to become the head brewer of Deschutes, because that guy's not retiring. So those guys both went, first one went to Ancestry, then the other one went to the other one and started up from there. And so you just have high quality, and they're just down the street from me.
That is one of the most amazing things about breweries that I learned, was that it's offensive to poach other talent from other breweries. So if you get good enough, really your only avenue is to go start your own. I'm like, I am all for that. More breweries.
Awesome. That is your Twitter handle, right?
Yes. Less tax, more beer.
Yes.
Tea party.
Yes.
Beer party. The beer party.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brian. We have another exciting episode with Brian coming up. It is going to be about what he actually does. So we went into him starting a business, him being an entrepreneur, but next he is very cutting edge when it comes to asset protection. And especially right now, we think that is an important topic. We actually had a tax specialist on our show, or on our podcast, who even in his view, he said, hey, the 3 rules when it comes to money is: first, protect your money, then make it tax efficient, then you can talk about investments, right? So even from the tax professional, he was like, number 1, go protect that. So that's what Brian does. We're excited to get into that. Real quick, nothing we say here on the show can be taken as tax, legal, financial advice. Please, if you heard something here you liked, either contact us, contact Brian, contact a professional. But we do advise that you go seek counsel. You can find us at www.wealthpreservationpodcast.com. We also are on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube.
All the great platforms.
Yeah, and so I guess any last thoughts there, Josh?
No, that was just a great episode. And Brian, thanks for sharing with your origin story, and kind of giving us that kick in the butt on grit, right? Like, that's really what it takes to make it. Like you said, it's been a 5, 6, 8 year journey, right? It didn't happen overnight, right? And everybody always wonders, why didn't it happen so quick? And you're like, no, it never happens quick. It's work.
It doesn't. It's work. It's kicking the pants, and don't be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, you'll go nowhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for checking out this episode, and make sure you check out Brian's second episode. It'll be posted in a couple weeks. Thanks everybody.